Hi, week 5, session 1 of 2, only 2 this week. Welcome to the drill down, also known as the neck of the funnel. You have all of your chapters, 32 chapters. You have anywhere from, at this point, I'm not going to say 2 sentences, we're talking 2 to 4 pages. So, as your pacer, if you are on board to have your first novel completed by December 1st, when this 12-week journey concludes, then at this stage, hopefully your novel is at a place where you have something in all 32 chapters and you really want to have about 2 to 4 pages of content. We all know what that content is. I'm not going to repeat it. You've been layering and sifting and adding in this content over the last 4 weeks. The last being research, and again, it's not in any particular order. I introduced it in layers so that we are not overwhelming ourselves, but obviously you're going to be moving in and out of researching and brainstorming and subconscious flights of fancy. Bottom line, you've chunked and plunked from your sandboxes and you have content, you have relevant content in all 32 chapters. And I just want to take a moment and say congratulations. Well done. Very often we work toward a goal and we don't take time to stand back. As a friend of mine used to say, stand back and admire your work, baby. So congratulations. Oh, I know how I felt when I got to that stage of my novel. I was like, oh my God, I actually have a manuscript. So for the drill down session, aka the beginning of exploring the neck of the funnel, you have your chapters printed out, all right? And basically what you're doing at this stage is that you're going chapter by chapter now. Let's start with chapter 1. And you will go to your chapter. You'll have some blank spaces to fill in. Things are not going to be in order. Some of it will be in order. And what you're going to do is you're going to use more of your adult brain now to make sense, make logical sense, logic within the context of the world of your novel, because it might be science fiction and it might be based in another realm, fantasy. And within that, the world that you've created, you're going to make logic out of it, and you're basically going to go to the work. As I said before, you're not going to stand outside the work and say, oh my God, I got 32 chapters of mess, what am I going to do? No, no, no. You go to chapter 1, all right? And I'm looking at my and you read, okay? And you start sifting through, and you're like, and again, 3 sentences in, you've already experienced this, you're going to start moving things around. And you're just going to work through chapter 1. You're going to need to fill in research blanks. You're going to need to fill in questions you might have left for yourself, notes that you, whatever it is, you're going to start cleaning up the chunk and plunk, and you're going to begin to massage it. Think of it as a hunk of clay. Chapter 1 and all this stuff in here, it's a hunk of clay, and now I'm going to start to smooth and shave away, and a picture, a finer, more elegant picture is going to emerge. And then follow your natural rhythms, as we talked about last week. And when you're done, you're done. You put chapter 1 away. Okay, you print out the new version of it. You put it in your, oh, hold on a second here. You put it in your notebook. My cover page is missing. But you put it in your notebook, and you punch your 3 holes in it, and that's the end of it, honey. You do not look at it. All right, and the reason we don't look at it as a gentle reminder is because our logical adult brains that are wired to make sense and organize and analyze will by its nature, be hypercritical of embryonic work. And even though you have been playing with chapter one in various iterations over the last number of weeks, this particular iteration, each iteration is new. Each iteration, you're birthing something new. So you just put it away. Then your next session, depending upon your rhythms, that for me, I tend to work 2 or 3 sessions in a day, usually 90 minutes to 2 hours each. Sometimes I work one session. Again, whatever your rhythm is, if it's later on that day, the same day, if it's 2 o'clock the following morning, if it's the next day, you go on to chapter two. And you pick up chapter two and you go to the work and you start reading and go, oh wow, yeah, I have to Google that. So then you go and you go to your research notes and say, well, you've already researched it, so you don't have to go on Google, because the internet can be very distracting. I know I was looking at some articles the other day, and then I start looking on the right side and I start seeing all these articles that I want to read. So that's another reason why we have the go and get it research phase, so that we're just going to our own files on our desktop, on our hard drive. We're not engaging the World Wide Web. As wonderful it is as it is, it can also be very distracting. And so you just start going in and you work on chapter two. And you follow your organic rhythm. Again, usually if once you get into the zone, you're usually going to be there. There's a lot of research out there that says that the human brain can really focus and groove on a particular activity for 90 minutes, and then you need to take a rest. That's okay. And we talked about how we do that. We take breaks, we change our geography, we get into our bodies. And you make your changes in chapter two, you print it out, you put it in your notebook, and you don't look at it. All right. And you keep going in this fashion. What you are doing when you're not looking at it is that you're giving, you're going to hear the word bake, and you're giving the work mini bakes. And what you're doing is you are creating distance, objectivity, so that when you go to it the next time, not only are you going to be surprised, because when we are in trance and tapping into our subconscious, a lot of good writing comes. Often we can't see that when we write and immediately come out of trance, go into our more analytical brains, and then start to read it. We tend to judge it rather than appreciate it. And so we can't, for lots of reasons, we can't see clearly what our next step is. So that is why it's very important to just do what you need to do in chapter one. And that's going to be specific to your experience based on how you've chunked and plucked and plunked out of your sandboxes and what's in your chapters. And then you just leave it alone. And you really want to give, and so you just keep going. You just keep going. You go to chapter three, you go to chapter four, you go to chapter five. And meanwhile, chapters one, two, three, all the chapters that you worked on previously are baking, and you are I love this process because you are giving them time to do their own, they're just doing their thing. You are not over functioning by trying to work every sentence and make it sound lyrical and beautiful. We're going to move into the language section of this journey next week, week 6. You're just now starting to work with the hunk of clay. You just chunked and plunked hunks of clay, and now you're starting to make some sense out of it, and some shape and some order is starting to emerge, some logical order, logic to the world that you've created. And then you keep going. And then after a week has gone by, all right, you want to give, every time you work on an iteration of it, you want to give your chapters at least 24 hours, all right, 48 hours. But after, then you can begin to cycle back. So you can keep going through your manuscript, right? You can work on chapter 7, 8, 9, 10, shaving, and then you can go back and say, well, let's see what's going on with chapter 1. And then you begin to work on the next iteration of those earlier chapters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that is what, basically, that is the model, and that is the rhythm that you're going to follow for the rest of this journey. There will be some extended bake time. You will be having readers read your work, and as a function of that, getting feedback, and we'll talk all about that. You may wish to make some changes. But generally speaking, the process is you're going chapter by chapter, you're smoothing out the hunks of clay, the chunks and plunks, you're beginning to make some sense, logical sense out of it so that the reading experience is fun for you and others. And you're doing that in an iterative mode. All right. So you go chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then chapters 1 through 5 are baking. You start with chapter 7, then you take a, rather than go to chapter 8, and you can work at the same time. You can go to chapter 8, and then your next session go back to the new iteration of chapter 1, chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, and go, oh, and continue to shave these hunks of clay till they get smoother and finer, and the picture looks a little more elegant. That's what we're doing. That's the drill down phase at the neck of the funnel. Have a ball, and I'll see you in session 2.